Welcome to the Culture Edit. Unique perspectives into the personal and professional lives of individuals at the helm of successful business, athletics, art, and design. Welcome to the Culture Edit, episode 93.
93, it was a good year. 1993.
Oh, was it?
I graduated high school.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. It's also the same year that Saved by the Bell graduated high school and the same year 90210 Beverly Hills graduated high school.
The golden year.
It was, yeah.
I mean, the 90s
Lincoln High School was thrown in there from Tallahassee, Florida also. It wasn't really a TV show, but we imagined it was.
The 90s was a good time.
Yeah. Shout out to all my friends from the last few episodes that I've told stories to that have caught up and are texting me about them. Glad you guys enjoyed my New Year's Eve story and
Confirm that it was true.
yeah, it's confirmed that it was true. So we have I guess it's June. We should acknowledge that. People say the year's half over, but it's actually not because you got to go through the whole month of June for the year to be over. So
Exactly.
you're really like 43% over.
Yeah, you're fine. You still got you got plenty of time to do whatever you want.
To check those boxes and get those goals done.
I don't like the idea of a year.
Okay, we said we're going to do a quick intro, but I feel like
Because I don't
does not feel like quick intro topic.
I feel like time is a marketing ploy.
Time is a marketing ploy, okay.
Like if that, the guy that does the Subway interviews and he's like, "What's your take?"
Yeah.
Mine would be that time is a marketing ploy.
Well, let's message him.
I'm not famous though.
He doesn't have just famous. He has normal people on the subway.
Huh, interesting.
That's the main thing. And then every now and then I'll have a famous person.
Okay.
We have mutual friends with him.
Oh.
Like we know people that know him. So
all right. Yeah, well that's my
So do you want to save it then?
Well, I guess I need to save it if we're gonna
I understand what you're saying because the seasons are why people buy stuff.
This need to constantly plan your life around essentially it's not an imaginary date, but it could be an imaginary date because who's to say dates are even they don't mean anything.
But the seasons are real.
The seasons are real. The sun is real.
Yeah.
But the actual name of months and the time that we put like that's all a marketing ploy to get us to wrap our little brains around our activities that we should be doing throughout the year and how we spend money.
Okay, we'll come back to that one on another episode. And by the way, it's Unbound Survivors Week. So congrats if you went to Unbound and survived. Dr. Al McDonald, our good friend, just went for we're not sure if it's second or third time in a row. Definitely the second time in a row.
Yeah.
And had a great day.
Great result.
Great result. He's finished 69th overall in something his age group.
Yeah, something.
Fifth, I think, in his age group.
Yeah.
And he also was the first orthopedic surgeon to finish.
Possibly the only orthopedic surgeon to start and finish.
Yep. So shout out to Alan.
Yeah.
Great job.
We're proud of you. He knows where his
he doesn't listen
patients
he doesn't listen to the podcast anyway, but his wife does. So maybe she'll tell him. It's
pretty smart to if you think it from a marketing perspective, even though it's in Kansas, which is in Atlanta, which is where he works. From a marketing perspective, if we're on marketing, going to these events where people constantly break bones, I mean,
oh yeah,
it's pretty smart.
I tell him that all the time.
Yeah,
I mean that's why we take him on trips
in case we break our bones.
Yeah,
exactly. That makes sense.
Yeah. So we have a guest today.
A really exciting cycling guest today. So all of our cyclists will be glad to hear that we will be talking about an interesting brand that most of you are familiar with, but probably don't know the backstory behind.
Café du Cycliste.
Cycliste.
So we have the co-founder and CEO, André Stewart, on today. I actually met André while we were in Nice, so listeners of the podcast know that we were in Nice a few weeks ago. I went to the Café du Cycliste group ride. So they have a group ride on Saturday mornings. They call it their Cappacino ride. And I think we talk a little bit about the rides, but and I know I talked about it on the episode, but I met Andre on that ride. Very nice, introduced himself to me. And that doesn't happen in a lot of group rides.
Especially in different countries.
And it was one of those situations where I was like, oh yeah, do you work for Café du Cycliste? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, what do you do? He's like, I'm the co-founder and I own it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then we chatted it up and I said, hey, we got this podcast. I'd love for you to be on it right there on the ride. And he said, let's do it.
And what I like about Andre is that he aligns with our audience in that he, for the majority of his career, was a businessman, a tech guy. And he spent most of his life in the Silicon Valley, Palo Alto kind of tech world before transitioning into cycling-focused brand like Café du Cycliste.
Yeah, I think said he was around 40 years old whenever they started the brand. And if you're not familiar with the brand, they position themselves now as an outdoor apparel brand that's rooted in cycling. And they're also very much rooted in the Cote D'Azur, French Riviera. So when you look at their brand aesthetic, it feels very unique. It does not feel like other cycling or outdoor apparel brands. And you walk, they actually have physical locations. So we went to their flagship location in Nice, which was kind of the center of the cycling world there. Like pros come in and
it's impressive.
Everyone hangs out, and they have all their apparel and equipment in there, and they also have rental bikes. They have Bossos, part of the Bosso family, so they have rental bikes there. So if you're ever in Nice, definitely want to make that part of your trip.
I would fly to Nice, leave your bike at home, rent a Bosso, get yourself a couple new kits from Café du Cycliste, and have the best time of your life.
But Nikki's already planning her next trip, is what she's saying, basically.
Yeah, I mean, if I can not have to carry a bike around, I'm all for that.
All for it.
Renting the bike.
Yeah, so we talk a lot about Andre's entrepreneurial journey, like you were saying, which I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast can relate to. We also talk about the brand. We talk about strategy when it comes to product, to locations. They've got a new location that they're opening in Paris, and we talk about that as well. And we just talk about riding and living in Nice, and it's quite the chat.
Yeah. So without further ado, we want to get into it.
All right. Morning.
Morning.
Or afternoon for you.
Welcome to the Culture Edit.
I'm here.
It's,
Morning.
Yeah, thanks.
Is this you have a studio?
Yeah. It serves multi-purpose. So it's our studio for our agency, but it's also kind of a hub for our club, our membership club. You can see we've got bikes in here. We got easels for painting. Nikki's painting with a little bit of everything. You can appreciate it.
I can appreciate it. Yeah. It's good.
Yeah, we're like in the heart of the city. So it's a big, Atlanta's a big city, and we're
Yeah, no, that's perfect. It's great.
How's the Cote D'Azur on a Friday afternoon treating you?
It's good. It's really good. I mean, it's getting hotter here now. So when you were here, it was still it wasn't hot like it gets.
Yeah.
So, and in about 2 weeks, you start planning your routes through the shade.
Yeah.
Which are the climbs that have the most shade and so on.
We can relate.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we can relate to that. We do the same thing in the summer. It's you plan the route for the shade. We always talk about that with our friends in Miami. They don't have that option. They just got to ride in the blazing sun all summer.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned it. I'm always amazed at how big the turnout is in Miami. How big that community is, given it's very limited.
Yeah.
They got one option.
Yeah, it's definitely a social scene, not a. It's not so much like an adventure scene. Like I would say Atlanta, we can go on all kinds of adventures like gravel riding, mountain biking, trail running, outside of the city. But Miami's a little limited with that. So it's more social because everyone stops for coffee and has fun. Whereas in Atlanta, it's less social, I think.
Yeah.
It's bigger group rides, but after the group ride is over, everyone just goes back home and no one wants to get coffee or grab a drink or anything. So that makes it difficult.
Yeah. I mean, they have their fast rides in Miami, but yeah, they just try and drop them.
Yeah.
It's not like the Café du Cycliste Cappacino ride where everyone's really friendly for the first hour at least, and then you try to drop us.
It starts off as a cappuccino and then it turns into an espresso. But yeah, we're working on that now. In fact, one of the things that's become extremely apparent is wherever we set up a ride, whether that's in Mallorca or near Ventoux or in Nice, we get a pretty good turnout. And we're not really organized. So we've just hired somebody that's just going to do activations and activations only, and we're gonna have the different levels. So the entry level is going to be an Americano, and then you'll have a cappuccino,
Yeah.
and then you'll have an espresso, and then a double espresso, and then we'll do runs as well. We'll have like a latte macchiato. I mean, we've got this naming convention now. We're going to really ramp up the community because I mean it's evident now that there's just a group of people just dying for that, and particularly the younger generation, which
Yeah.
kind of understand that going out to the pub or drinking in a bar isn't the best healthy life, and so there's a whole sort of and so they're looking for places to meet, which is not necessarily going out late. So yeah, we're seeing that with some of our partners, and we're definitely going to ramp that up now.
Yeah. Yeah. We see. And you got to have someone that kind of takes charge and takes that ownership that they're not going to get caught up in the going hard and leaving everyone behind. I mean, we experience the same thing here. It's tough.
Yeah, you need I think it's a full. Well, for us, we've got four soon four shops, so it's a full-time job to organize that. And the problem is, I mean, you came on a cappuccino ride. Yeah, the problem is it's not sort of accessible for a lot of people that would like to join and maybe starting or just want to take it really easy or do less kilometers.
Yeah.
So it's a question of setting all of those different rides for different people.
Well, the
Yeah.
challenge you have in Nice is the terrain too. I mean, that's how I was talking to Nikki. I was like, I don't know what this ride's going to be like because as soon as you start riding, you're climbing, which is
Yeah.
unusual to think about
Yeah.
trying to stay together in a group while you climb. But you guys did a really good job with that. But that's hard for someone that isn't experienced and isn't used to suffering like that.
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure. I mean, the average riders here are pretty good, but because of the hills.
yeah,
But yeah, I have like this WhatsApp coach, and he put on the training peaks. He put, go and find a place with a hill would be preferable, and I'm like,
You're
I
like
need to find a
everywhere.
place that's flat.
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, it's hard. It's
yeah,
hard, but
It,
it's great. I think it's really satisfying when you get to the top of these bigger climbs.
for sure.
I
Did you
heard,
did you ride today?
I will ride just shortly. I rode the last 2 days, and I will do just a small ride tomorrow. We have a bigger ride, and then I'm training.
Yeah. What are you training for?
So we have sponsored the Rift, which is a gravel race in Iceland,
mhm.
Yeah.
and that's super cool. Like the setting is just incredible. I did a Monaco gravel race. Yeah, it was so difficult. Like the level was so high that I realized that it was like a big wake up call for me because I came in my age category, I came last out of 33 people,
Yeah.
and I just wasn't expecting that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's first time for everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think I saw signs for that, the Monaco gravel race.
It had just happened
Yeah,
right
it
before
just happened
we got there.
before we got there. Because I was like, Chad, you should go do this. And then I realized it was.
Yeah.
Yes, it happened, I think, the week before Tracker,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
weekend before Tracker.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
and I were talking. It's one of those things where it's like you're mid race and you kind of come to this realization. You're like, why am I doing this? I didn't train for this. So I get it. Like you either got to like train for it and do it, or just go into it as I'm just gonna have fun. But sounds like you want to train for the Rift.
Well, yeah. I mean, this was a UCI World Championship qualifier, but it was not your average crowd. I
Yeah.
mean, there were some really strong players there. And I think it was one of the ex-pros that came first.
The Masters group, the 50 plus group is always the hardest.
Yeah.
That's what we say.
I was just going to ask about how the new group run is going. Because I feel like everyone now that has a cycling shop is also trying to do some sort of group run.
Yeah, I think that's just easier for people to join. Again, it's that, community, and it's just the easiest sport to like the next sport to open up to. Like my co-founder is a surfer. He's an ex-world champion kayak. kayakist. We would do other sports, but the one that's most easy is sort of jogging and then running and over here you can go into trail running, which again starts to become pretty difficult. And there's some demand for that. So yeah, those are the ones that are easiest to sort of elope into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was sad that I didn't go on more trail runs while we were there. We
Yeah.
didn't have enough time, but I did see that there was like trail races every single day, pretty much. I don't know if it was like a local club that does trail races constantly, but
Yeah, we are super lucky because between here and let's say Marseille, and then if you go a little bit into Italy, there's pretty much some sort of race going on, whether it's a triathlon, a trail, um, mountain bike, or I mean, it's ongoing every weekend, really,
Yeah.
this time of year. So yeah, you just got to be ready for it.
What's it like to live there? Like, do you get used to it? Like, are you just always like, man, this is beautiful. I can't believe I live here.
Yeah, I mean, look, the human being sort of gets used to everything,
Right.
even the good things. When I first came over here, which was quite some time ago, it took about 4 to 6 months to realize that I wasn't on holiday, that
Yeah.
I was working, and there was, and then you sort of get into your stride, and I mean, the back country and the sea, and and the views. I don't think you. I never get used to them. I always think they're amazing, but you do get used to living in a great place, and you think it's all the same.
Yeah.
You get used to cycling and in just an incredible environment, and then you go to another country, and then you go, oh wow, this isn't so good. So I looked at Seattle, Miami, and obviously in my past life I worked around Silicon Valley and rode quite a lot there. And we were thinking about opening up a store in the US.
Yeah.
And so I rode in a lot of those places, which is interesting because one thing is going to see it. The other one is actually riding with the people and seeing how they ride, what's important for them, what type of cyclists they are really. You get a feel for it. Yeah, that's when I realized, gosh, we're in such a good part of the world. We just need to make people enjoy our part of the world rather than try and go and conquer some of the other markets. I mean, the US is a big market. Recently, with the whole Trump affair, it makes it very difficult to sort of plan ahead and understand if, what you can do in the market. And plus, I think, well, I don't think I know, the whole cycling industry is still getting over the sort of COVID
Yeah.
party hangover. You know,
yeah, it
it's
just feels
still,
like everything's so much more expensive here to do anything. So it makes more sense to probably just stay in Europe and explore new places there because it's
well,
unpredictable here.
yeah. I mean, I was maybe a month ago now in Beijing, Taiwan, Shanghai, and Korea, and the US is just it's more expensive. It takes a bit of time. Location, like everywhere, is key, but in the US, if you really want the good locations, that's very expensive.
Yep.
And even people get paid more. So the people that you employ, you got to pay them more normally, which is and the market's high, but it's a bigger bet. It's a bigger bet because it's still far away and hard to sort of grasp, get your arms around something that's so far away, unless you have some great people, which, yeah, you have to partner with basically.
Yeah, and you're so right here. Like culturally, when it comes to riding and running, the different areas of the country are so different. And that's like we travel all the time, and we do the same thing. Like we go to different rides and we go to different runs, and we're evaluating the same thing. Like what is it that people value here? Like again, Miami is a great example of like they're really about the social aspect of it. Atlanta, that's not part of the scene here. It's more about the training, right, and the performance, and you get that all different places. So it's very hard for the U.S. Whereas I think, especially in your part of the of France there, what we saw was pretty special in terms of how people enjoy the life and they enjoy the ride and they enjoy looking cool. And that's a big part of it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's a bit of everything. Huh? You don't have to go very far to see um, the difference between Italy, the Italians, and the French, and then the Spanish. But yeah, there's a bit of everything. It's not just, I don't know, have it looking really good. There's some real performance people. I can see that the US is quite different from the places where I went riding. So what we found in apparel when we're doing premium apparel is that the countries that had cycling clubs,
Yep.
like a lot of cycling clubs, they had the cycling jersey.
Hmm.
They had a history. So Belgium, France, Spain, and Italy had these big clubs, whereas places like Scandinavia, Germany, the UK, it was they weren't the clubs weren't so dominant, so they were much more open to new things and
Yep.
a new way of riding and looking, etc. So those were the stronger markets for us, and they still are to some extent.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where are you from originally?
I am. It's difficult. Not it's difficult to guess. I'm half English, half Brazilian.
Okay.
So yeah, my mother's Brazilian, and my father's English.
Okay.
Where did you grow up most of the time?
There you go. Every 2 years, I moved from one country to another. My father was in the oil business, so I moved around a lot. But I spent university in the UK and France, and I speak 4.5 languages. Yeah, I just love being in Europe because everything is so close,
Yeah.
and so different. You can never get bored of one area you're never too far from another one to change, which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so just, and I feel like we talk about this all the time, but just the public transportation alone to be able to get places and not have to always get in your car and drive to go see something different is really nice because even when I ran in Nice, I just hopped, I did like a point to point, and once I got to the furthest point I wanted to go, I literally just downloaded the app for the bus and then just took that back, and it was super nice. And in Atlanta, I've never ridden a bus in Atlanta because it's just like it sounds when you think of the way your buses look in Nice.
It's a lot different.
I can't really explain to you how the buses are in Atlanta,
Yeah,
but those are the things that I appreciate. Those like little things that make it easy to explore.
yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like I said, it varies, and we complain about some of the things that are actually work very well. But yeah, I mean, have you ever been to Switzerland
Mm-mm,
and
I
caught the
haven't.
trains there? Yeah, the train times are like they're not like 20 past 4 or whatever. They're like 17 past 4, and you can almost set your watch to it. They're always on. It's just incredible. So yeah, and then some other countries they can't keep that promptness, and they've got delays, and then people say, "Why can't we do it like them?" And
Yeah.
but then we're spoiled. We're spoiled because yeah, the transport system is pretty good, and the cycling is growing in the cities
Yeah.
massively. After COVID, we have closed down some of the lanes and made them into cycling lanes. That is something that I see across Europe in a big way.
Yeah. Yeah. We noticed that too. We only got honked at one time the whole time we were in Nice, which was nice. It's like every ride here we get honked at.
Well, and you feel like the drivers, and whether this is reality or just delusion, you feel like drivers pay attention a little bit more in Europe than they
Yeah.
do in the US. I think there's probably parts to that. One, I think that your police do a better job of policing. And two, I think honestly having a lot of manual cars, people are having to pay attention. They can't necessarily be like texting the whole time, whereas in the US it's just all automatic, semi-autonomous. People just have their phone in front of their face the entire time they're driving. But it felt a little bit safer. Even though the cars still get close to you, it's
Yeah.
like they're
They're more skilled.
more skilled maybe, but it
Yeah.
could be a delusion. I don't know.
No, I mean I can tell you, I've cycled in. I think Spain is the best country. They're the ones that respect the most.
Yeah.
You know, people complain about the UK or they complain about France or they complain. Well, UK and France, I think, is pretty good. It's only when there's just an insane amount of cyclists on the road that the drivers are getting a bit frustrated. And then Italy, they they cycle they drive a bit closer to you, and it's the most bizarre thing because I can only imagine that every single Italian family has one person or one relative that's a cyclist because
Yeah.
there's so many, but they just drive closer to you, but they're not necessarily aggressive. I have ridden in the US and I found it a little bit of a shock because
Yeah.
the bit that is strange in the US is that well, for me at least, was you can be a pedestrian and you arrive in a town and they'll stop for the pedestrian on the pedestrian crossing.
Yep.
And but if you're a bike and you're just outside of that cycle lane, they'll start honking and it's like you're, I don't know, competing for the road and it's a bizarre.
Yeah, we've got some theories on that for sure, but it is really weird. We talk about that all the time because I mean, and we live in the city, so it's a little bit better. But especially if you go out into the more rural areas, there's a level of hostility towards cyclists that doesn't make sense.
There's a real level of hostility.
Yeah.
And yeah, you choose your routes and you get to know. That's the good thing about arriving and knowing people in different places. I think that's just super key, to join a community or some rides that the cafe is holding or wherever, because then suddenly you know the routes, the people are there, they can tell you what to watch out for. I think that's key.
It's so true.
Uh,
We were talking to our friend, she's our friend, but she's also on the podcast a few episodes ago, Peta Mullins. She's from Australia. She's like a 12-time national champion from Australia, still races, spends a lot more time in the US doing crit racing now. And she was saying like that's her number one thing because she's been racing for a long time now. And she's like, when I go places, I absolutely make a point to go to a shop, to go to a cafe, to go, reach out to people on Strava or Instagram just so I can meet friends in all these different locations. 'Cause it's the best way to explore on the bike is when you know people in those places.
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's
And,
true.
and you get into some great conversations as well. It
Exactly.
was good to you, Chad, when we were riding, and there's what I love about the rides we do on the Saturday and we have one tomorrow is that I always meet someone who's come from very far away. It's not just there's always three or four people that are from, I don't know, Russia, Holland, China, US, Canada, not the locals. And that's always interesting.
Does that feel crazy to you knowing, and we'll get into like how you built the brand and everything, knowing that you built this brand that's so recognizable that people from Russia to China to the US are all coming to your shop, to your brand. That's got to be surreal sometimes.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it evolves, right? The first time when you start selling, like we started selling jerseys, and if you're not in, like I remember being in the UK and seeing someone wearing a jersey of ours, and I was like, oh my God, that must be a friend of mine, and then notice someone's actually bought it, and then that evolves, and then you meet people that have come from some way to see that store. It's nice. It's special for them. We realized that in Nice, we became pretty much the only cycling cafe that. I mean, there's been some others that have come and gone, but yeah, there's people that come from afar and they just want to take a picture in front of it, and so. We became aware of that. And now we're building, like when we open a place, we look at it and it has to be sort of somewhat majestic or in a really good location. And and we're spending a lot of money to make it a place to meet, a place to have a coffee, a place to talk about cycling, maybe watch the Giro or the Tour de France or whatever's on. So yeah, now we're working towards that.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you told me that you were in technology, like you had a normal job, and you decided. I guess you met your co-founder, and you guys decided to start doing this. Kind of walk us through high level. I think you said, was it 2009 y'all started?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was in what used to be called data communications, and then became internet, and then I became went into internet security. And I basically represented a number of US startups that were looking to expand into Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And I started off as a regional director and became a VP EMEA. So I ran the business in Europe, and the way it worked is that I would work and get paid a good portion of that in stock options, which is a simple concept to understand in the US, but
Yep.
some other countries they don't understand that. But and so when a company went public, I'd made money, and I realized when I got to about 38, I made first IPO was good, and I decided to do some sports. So I went into um, I did an Ironman as the first, and then I did a few cycling race Grand Fondos, and I realized that the people training were like very, very like people with small salaries that were spending 5, 6K on a bike,
Yeah.
like in 2008, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is nuts. How can they actually like? I couldn't think. I had money, and I was like, it was hard for me to buy a bike that was 5K, but there was a lot of people buying them, and I thought I must start something in the cycling. And I thought to myself, what is it that works in the US and or in general that works really well? And I initially said, okay, the concept's going to be a Starbucks, a Facebook, and an eBay, all for cycling. That was the idea.
Okay.
Uh, I bought a cafe just behind the Cannes in 2009. And then we were looking at different possible technologies that we could adapt. At the time, pedals with power capturing were just coming through.
Yep.
We were looking at that, and at the same time, we looked at another thing called the bio bike, which was a self-adjusting bike that would adjust to your exact positioning, and it would capture the most watts you could get in that,
Hmm.
the technology. The software wasn't that good. It was an Australian company. And we were doing okay. I realized very quickly that there wasn't the same amount of money that there was in technology, and I needed to either raise some money. We invested into this cafe. I had a partner originally who didn't believe that cycling was going to be anything of any consequence. So I ended up parting with that person. But one of the guys that I had hired, he was my marketing guy at this cybersecurity company, tech company that I was in, and he was designing cycling like satchels, bags, and caps on the weekend, and I was like, "What the hell are you doing? This is weird thing to be doing on the weekend." And he goes, "I just love designing things." And I said, "Well, let's do jerseys."
Yeah.
And at that time, there was pretty much. I mean, we started doing the jerseys, and we tried to do the merino jerseys, and we did. We made some mistakes at the beginning, because yeah, we made some great looking jerseys, but at the beginning we made these 100% merino, and you can't do 100% merino
Yeah.
because when it gets wet, they tend to tear, and so that was like a big
Oops.
big problem that set us back at the beginning. But we continued, and we grew slowly, organically, and I think that was the difference between us and many other cycling brands. I mean, Rafa was definitely ahead of us.
Yeah.
A lot of people felt we decided to copy them, but we kind of just fell into it by chance. Um, and I
And
think
was this under the Café du Cycliste brand? Like it was that's where that came from?
yeah,
Okay.
the buying the cafe at the beginning was the first thing, and
Yeah.
so called it Café du Cycliste,
Okay.
the cyclist cafe. And then we started making the jerseys, and we kept the name, and it's worked pretty well. In fact, we had no idea that, or I had no idea that this sort of connection between coffee and riding was going to be so big because there's so many brands with coffee and riding, or you know them.
Yeah.
It's because it's hard to go to a bar first and then go ride.
That's for sure.
It's easier to get
That's
coffee.
for sure.
So in
Uh,
the original, it was in Gras, right? Is that where the original was?
it was in Graz,
Yeah.
exactly. It was in, yeah.
So when
It's
did it become like when did you realize, okay, I think we actually can become an apparel company instead of just a cafe?
I sort of moved out of the cafe after about 2 years, and Remy continued. Remy Clermont is my co-founder. He continued, and I backed him up financially, but he continued to sort of create these jerseys slowly in a little tiny room in Nice at the time, and he had his wife and another person that was helping him. And then I'd send my kids to help with the stock at the beginning, and shipping out and sending. And so yeah, I remember maybe it was 2011, which would have been, yeah, right at the beginning, or 2000, and we were really happy to sort of register 3K a month, and then 4K a month, and then
Yeah.
these were exciting times. And then um and we finally moved into a much bigger place, which was an office which had our own stock in it, which we started designing, having people talking to the factories and so on. And then in 2016 we moved into that cafe that you saw in Nice.
Okay.
And we have, separate to that, we still have an office with about 35 people in it today.
That's in Nice too.
That's in Nice,
Okay.
yeah. And then the other stores are in Mallorca, at the bottom of Ventoux, which
Okay.
you've got to come and see if
Yeah.
you haven't seen it. And then Paris.
Yeah.
Paris is on the 12th.
Well, yeah. Wait, so that's about to open. Where in Paris is it going to open? I was curious about that.
It's in the second arrondissement,
Oh yeah.
so it's right in the center, and yeah, and we're partnered up with the Montmartre Velo Club.
Hmm.
So it's already a sort of cycling club that's going to use us as a hub. But it's going to be, I think, the coolest shop, cycling shop. There's not that many, so I can claim it quite easily. But coolest cycling shop in Paris is what we want to make it.
Yeah. I'm curious about that because we go to Paris a lot, but it's always cold when we go.
We typically go in December just
Yeah.
for like the holidays, but
And we always curious. We're like, I wonder if can you ride out of Paris? Like, are there good rides out of Paris? But then I saw you were building that, and I saw that club, that Montmont
Yeah.
club. It looks like they're pretty big, so there must be some good riding around there.
Yeah, well, there's writing.
Yeah,
There's writing. It's good enough. It's, I guess, similar to London, but it's not yeah, it's not like being down here.
it's more city riding
yeah,
or just outside the city, maybe.
Well, so in Paris, just like in London you have Richmond Park and Regent's Park, which people do a lot of laps around. In Paris, there's Longchamp. Um, there's a lot of people that go and do this. It's just beside the Bois de Boulogne, and people just ride round and round and round, and it's 3K or 5K or 10K depending which park. And there's no cars, so that's easy. But then if you want to get out, you can get out. You've got to go through traffic for about, I don't know, 15K, 15, 20K, and then you find routes out that have, little cars.
that's about what we have to deal with too.
Yeah,
It's not
because
too
we have
bad.
we have a
Yeah.
park that we go to, and there's no car, or there are cars, but not a lot in the park. So it's nice because you can just do laps. But
Yeah. What? So back
Okay.
to building Café du Cycliste. I'm curious, like, at what point were you like, all right, this is going to work. I can stop doing my other job, and this is actually happening. Like that had to be like a surreal moment for you.
Well, I didn't stop doing my job because for some time because we kept hiring people that were, more important than me in that they could deal with the factories. They had some experience in designing. The we needed to hire a number of people, but clearly, well, when we moved into the Nice cafe, we knew that we were onto something
Yeah.
because, we wanted a space, we had money, we had backing, we were growing. So yeah, so it took us about 5 years. It could have been faster. I mean, I know of a lot of companies that have raised money. We
Mm.
never raised money, and so it's yeah. There's pros and cons to that.
Yeah. Were you tempted? I mean, you came from that world, like you knew how it worked.
Yeah, was tempted, especially when you saw people like Rafa, people like well, the others that came afterwards, but even now, Pass and Map, they've had quite a lot of money. I mean, but it was odd. I did speak to a venture capitalist who knew the numbers for Rafa, and just said, "Wow, you're doing a good job. You've got profits here. Why run? It's all growing nicely. Got some good guidance."
Yeah, that's good. So you open up, and I think that's probably when you came probably on my radar would be like 2016, 2017 from the US. Like that's when I think we would start to notice you guys, and really because you're doing something from our perspective so different. Like you had Rafa, but Rafa to us looks very British and very dark. uh, you know, and you have this like, you have your brand mantra, forever outsiders, right? Is that where that came from? Like you wanted to be different. You wanted to be very French.
Yeah, I mean, France is not the easiest place to build a business because the employment laws are quite difficult, and um, yeah, if you think, yeah, it's not the easiest place, but we knew that first thing we knew was we had to be premium because we didn't want to compete with Castelli, we didn't want to compete with Assos. Assos is quite premium, but we had to be different to the brands that were out there that could be made in China. And so we made a conscious effort not to be made in China.
Yeah.
We got most of our stuff made in Italy today, and then we started making some stuff in China, and then we I can tell you about that later, but um, so we've got 93% of everything we make is in Europe, and that's quite important um, to differentiate ourselves, but also now for sustainability and in our B Corp certification, etc. But so we knew we had to be different. We had to be premium. We knew we wanted to have something that was a bit reflective of the south of France. And so we had some designs. We had a lot of designs that were with the flowers of the area. We looked at a lot of the colors, the marinière, which is a sailor's top that has been a great seller for us. The stripes. We were the first to come out with stripes. I mean, stripes are everywhere now.
Yep.
And so we wanted that freedom. And we've always had that freedom to do things that we felt were cool. And I say we, but it's really my co-founder who's the cool guy. I'm not the cool guy. But yeah, he wanted to do things that were just a little bit edgy and a little bit different, and we did. And there was a number of things that that I thought when I looked at it, I was like, wow, what has he done there? That's never going to sell. And yet they sold out. Uh, and it almost seemed like the weirder the things we made, the more it would sell. And when we tried to do, and people got used to that, when we tried to do more plain colors, no one was buying from us. They were buying from others.
Huh.
So we kind of kept that. But what I would say, which a lot of people don't know, and I'm gonna send both of you some of our bib shots if you haven't got them.
Yeah.
I mean, we really made a really impressive quality of bib shorts at the time, and a lot of them have been copied, but in some ways, it's just we're very, very good at making technical stuff because we were spending more money on it. We were spending more money on features. We were really looking at the technical aspect of the material we're using. So we've got that, and people I know because I get the feedback from those that have tried the other brands, and they say, we really like not only the look, but we like how it feels and how it works for us when we ride. Where we probably, when you say, would you have raised the money? What we could have done more of, in retrospect, is gone harder on the marketing,
Hmm.
and and we and we were positioned right at the beginning for online, and we had our own shop, but we were mostly online. Our number one market was the UK at the beginning, and then Germany, and not France. And
Huh.
when the internet came, sorry, not the internet, when COVID came and online was everything, we were super well positioned for it, and we had yeah, a business that doubled, profits that were great. Yeah, I mean, I from the Silicon Valley days, I have a friend who was running Sequoia Capital, one of the founders, and he loves cycling. And he looked at the number. I showed him the numbers. He looked at the numbers and he said, "Wow, I don't know anyone who's making those type of numbers in terms of profits." So we were in a good place.
It's got to be a good feeling hearing that from someone from Sequoia Capital. They
It
see all
was
the numbers.
really. It was yes. It was yes. Yes. It was. Wow. Yeah. It was a really good compliment. Um, and yeah, he'd seen a lot of the others, and but so we could have invested more in marketing. Yeah, we could probably have a bigger space in the market, but I think the market is changing again. I think, there's a there's definitely a hard time now for the not only the hardware, like the bike brands that are out there that are having a really hard time. Some of the apparel companies are going to close down. Yeah, and there's still a lot of discounting,
Yeah.
and so
Why is
uh,
that happening now?
well, it's happened because during COVID, it was just this market that was growing. I mean, I think the average was 65% in the whole of the cycling industry, at least in Europe. And the private equity people were cycling when they were
Right.
those that were playing golf, and they all wanted to get into it, and so they all bought. I mean, I think pretty much every cycling business that I know that was a relatively good one, I would say probably 80% of them raised the money one way or another.
Yep.
We brought in a shareholder and we cashed out a bit, but others raised money, and with those raises came raising targets, uh, you know, and
Debt too.
a lot more product
Yep.
and a lot more product, and it's taken and the demand went down after COVID as well. So the product went up, the demand went down, supply went up, the demand went down, and I thought it'd be over last year, but I can see that it's continuing into this year.
I also think it's the saturation of some brands in certain areas. Like a brand will go into a specific city, or at least in America, and let's just say like Miami, And then all of a sudden, everyone is wearing that exact brand because it becomes very cool very quickly. And so I think that makes it hard too, because people essentially buy like every single kit that the brand makes. And they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess I got to wait a whole nother season or something before something new comes out. I think that in the US, that's what we've seen.
Yeah, for sure.
Is it just gets super saturated and popular very quickly.
Trendy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous place to be as a brand because, where do you go from there? You've kind of at the peak.
Yeah.
Definitely people at one point they want to change. They want to not be like everybody else. Um, but what we're seeing, I mean, we're not the first, we're by far not the first, but what we're definitely seeing is a real push towards building communities. Um, and I think that's a great thing.
Yeah.
I think active sports, young, of all ages coming into communities and without it having to be too exclusive. I think that's great.
Yeah.
I also think focusing on the like new technology or quality is a good angle, because when I think of like I feel like I have every brand possible because I've been riding for a long time and running too. And so when I see like a new running brand, if it's just like, and I'm just using running because there's so many running brands popping up right now. If it's
Yeah.
just investing in marketing and branding, I'm like, that's cool. But if I see a running brand where I'm reading about the fabrics and they're really convincing me with the quality of the fabric and the research behind the fabric, to me, and obviously everyone has different personalities, I'm more attracted to that. So if you're like, oh, we've got these really incredible bibs and we put this much research and all of this, that makes me engage more with a brand long term than just, oh, we've got some new colorways coming out, which is cool at first, but then eventually when you ride long enough or run long enough, you really start focusing on quality over.
Yeah. It's a lot of hours.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours
I
on.
mean, we have bib shorts made with the same fabric that some of the Tour de France riders have. It's quick drying, it's compress, it's French, so it's for us it's local. Uh, Although it's put together in a factory in Italy. But you know what happens with the fabrics is that after a while, you do get they do become available to everyone. So you can have a sort of 1, maybe 2 years head start, and then it's hard to differentiate yourselves unless you keep looking for the new ones. So it's important not to have too much stock and make too much because then you can keep changing. But for us, in the last 2 years, it's all been about trying to have. So we have a number of different products and um, almost too many for a company of our size. But we deal with 24 factories in the world, and for us, we really made a conscious effort to have everything made in Europe, near shore, as close as possible so because we went for this B Corp certification, which is what's Patagonia made public really.
Yep.
But in cycling, we were pretty much the only ones with that, and yeah, we felt that was going to be quite important. It's not as important as we felt it would be, but in some countries it is. So, for example, in Germany, there are some of our partners where people come in and they just want to know, is this coming from a sustainable fabric, et cetera, which is quite interesting.
Why was that important for you? I mean, and we're familiar, and I think a lot of our listeners will be familiar with B Corp certification. It's people, planet, profit, right? Like those are the three big pillars. But it's really the people in the planet that gets the most focus on the certification side. I think it's unusual for a company that's thinking about apparel to think like, hey, let's go after I don't. That's my assumption because it's hard to do that, right? It's really really hard. Why was that important for you?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard. I mean, we also do 1% for the planet, and That tends to be quite a lot when when times are hard. But for us, it's important because, we have this will to have more and more outdoors product, not just cycling. And we have this logo now, which is a flying fish, which is, sort of reflective of the sea and the mountains here, and so looking after our planet is really key, and I think that's a story of the future. And so for us to get behind that early on, I guess it's the same reason when people buy electric cars. They want to do good for the planet, and
Yeah.
then realize maybe it's not as good as, or it is, but it's going to take time. So for us, it's been a difficult, it's been quite expensive and difficult to sort of align ourselves, but it's long term, and I quite like that.
So
You know,
it was more about you internally and the people that worked there more so than thinking like us being B Corp certification is going to help us sell more clothes. That's not, I'm not hearing that that's what it was. It was more about you guys internally wanting to do that.
everything that we do, I mean, we're not from the city, so
Yeah.
and the people that work here, a lot of them did come or work in the city in the past, and just love this outdoor space. Um, so that was key, and we did think at the same time, like in some of the markets, there is you know, some of those markets are looking for some level of sustainability within the companies. So we kind of thought this is part of the future. I mean, we've always when we became quite profitable, we thought we definitely need to give something back, and so that was 1% to the planet.
Yeah.
And then um, and then the next stage was, yeah, we would like to do uh, B Corp because, and all of that came together again with COVID. People were sort of moving out of the cities and saying, we want to be outside, and so there's where the forever outside is.
That's very, very cool. Yeah. So what does the future vision for Café du Cycliste look like right now? I did notice that, a lot of the positioning is about being rooted in cycling, but we're an outdoor apparel company. You've got running apparel now. You've got some lifestyle apparel. Like what's the future looking like for you?
We definitely want to, like I said, we want to grow the community. We want to make it very inviting for people that are traveling to these areas. So we want to cover more of the Mediterranean area,
Yeah.
in terms of stores, and have like the first. So 3 weeks ago we did Mont Ventoux.
Yep.
It was Sanglé. We did it with Ruler Travel. It was 3 times up Mont Ventoux, and then you get a certificate which called Sanglé, which if you translate from French to English, means the nutters, or the crazy guys. But you have to do that 3 times on the same day, and every time you go down to a town, you can stamp a little booklet, and then you become part of this revered club of crazy people. And so that was the first day, and then there were 2 days of riding from there to the Nice store, and people loved that. People came from Spain, Switzerland, the UK, and they really liked that. And I thought this is great. If we could have more than just one route, and maybe connect Mallorca to Girona, Girona to Ventoux, Ventoux, and right into Italy. I would love that. So that's part of a vision.
Yeah.
And yeah, and so lifestyle outdoor. Yeah, we want to get to be able to do things that community would enjoy. So if it's hiking or trail running or running, those are things that kind of connect and make sense for us.
Yeah. That does make sense.
I have one question.
Just one question.
Has anyone ever told you you look like George Hincapie?
Wow. That was not planned, Andre. That really was not.
That's nice.
I actually told him that.
Really?
Yeah,
You asked him that
on
too?
the ride, yeah.
It's like burned in my brain because we just saw him at a race recently, and I was like, "Gosh, this guy looks so much like George Hincapie," or George Hincapie looks like you.
Yeah,
I should
there you
say.
go.
Oh, well, I mean, I need to go and find the guy that he could that's perfect. I need to maybe get this guy. Get George to come in and do a double in some of the races against my friends. That would be the best.
That would be.
That actually would be a great idea. Have him get all the KOMs and race your friends.
Exactly. I'll give him my little goblet and let him loose in the region.
Exactly.
That would. And Andre's very tall too, so it's they very on the bike. They
look
much
very
look
similar.
Alike. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, no, over here it would be it's difficult to get KOMs or anything like that. I mean, there's you pros all the time.
Exactly.
I think you both need to come back. There's a lot that you missed.
Oh, we will.
There's a lot more to see.
Trust us. I mean, and we've talked about this, and we've talked about this on podcasts. We were blown away by Nice and really the whole area. And for us, especially from Atlanta, it's a relatively easy place for us to go because Delta Airlines is headquartered here, so it's a direct flight. And the Nice airport's right in this city, and it's like we were talking about like you can be riding the day that you travel. Like it's so easy to get there. So we'll definitely be back. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
We're already trying to figure out when because
it might be later this year.
We loved it so much. It was just such a nice. Such a nice place that in the world. It's amazing.
What's your go-to spots? Like, and we'll put these in the notes, but kind of like, what are your go-to spots there? When you're on what's a weekend spot? So you're going to ride tomorrow, do a Cappacino ride. What's a lunch spot? And then where do you go to hang out afterwards?
For me, it's all about you select which how many mountains you're going to climb.
Right.
There's Madone is close by, which was Lance Armstrong's favorite. Then there's Browse, called the Browse, which is another one, which is just behind. And then you can easily go into Italy. There's you can get Col de Turini is almost 2,000 meters to get to the top. I mean, and then you can go to the other side. I mean, there's just so much. It's such a big playground. Col de la Bonnette, I think, is probably the most beautiful climb.
Huh.
It's supposed to be the highest peak in Europe. In fact, it is in terms of what a road that goes over it.
Wow.
And that is about 70K. You'd drive closer to like 50K and then you ride from there.
Okay.
And that's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much. There really is. And then, no, I mean, in terms of cafe and places to ride to, I mean, I love going into Italy, having a coffee in Italy.
Yeah.
Which is not very far.
We did that. We rode to Italy. We had to.
You did?
Yeah.
We had to check the box. We got to go to Italy while we're here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's great. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good cafe stops, and then there's if you're off the bike, there's just incredible hiking areas. Like a lot of people don't know this, but for a third or a quarter of the year, there's waves and there's surfing in parts of Italy that are just, not that far away. So there's just a mix of completely different things that you could be doing.
And the food's amazing. Everywhere we went, the food was incredible.
Yeah, it is amazing. It's even better. The produce is better in Italy, cheaper and usually more real.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Huh.
To us, it felt like, because when I went on my run, I kept going through different little towns, I guess, and everyone had a farmer's market. And I'd never seen so much fresh fruit in one place.
And the fruit's all so much sweeter.
Yeah, it's
it
so
makes
much
us
better.
question like what's going on here
Well, we know what's going on here.
so much sweeter and good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much better.
But I think that's one of the hardest things in the US. I mean, knowing the UK is pretty bad. I think it gets worse in the US, having spent time there.
Yeah.
You have to, it's a mission for you guys to get fresh food.
It's very
It is.
difficult.
Yeah. And whenever it's frozen or they add water to it and stuff like that, which happens a lot in the US, then it just doesn't taste as natural.
Yeah, it's not
Exactly.
as good. So that's another reason to go back.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely be back. Are there any events in the second half of the year that you're partnering with there in the area that might be worth for us to come back to?
Well, we'll do so in September. We're going to do that ride again because it was so popular, and so that will be happening.
Are you doing that with Roller?
We're going to do that with Rouleur because they wanted to do it again.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do that every month. I was really surprised how people came from quite far to do that. We will do we'll do some events around the Tour de France because it's going through Bédoin and up Mont Ventoux. So that's on the, I think, 22nd of July. We've got the Rift, that's in Iceland. We've got I think those are the major ones that we're preparing for.
Yeah, very cool. Well, we'll take a look at those because I think we definitely are looking to come back soon. I'll close out in saying that so I got a pair, and I think I told you I got a pair of your glasses. The Transition, I think it's the model's the Victor. Is that right? They're like
sunglasses?
the sunglasses. They're like the rounder ones.
The Gabin?
Yes, those exactly. In the Transition, I'm a sunglass guy. I wear sunglasses all the time. I have never gotten more compliments, and Nikki will
It's
tell
so
you,
true.
than I've gotten wearing those sunglasses in Atlanta. And I've been sending everyone to you. So if you notice a spike in sales of sunglasses from Atlanta, Georgia, that's what's going on.
And Chad got me a backpack from Café du Cycliste.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. It's the best backpack I've ever had. It's like the kind that, I don't know if there was multiple kinds, but it was.
There are. It's like the medium-sized backpack, not the giant one, but the medium-sized one.
Yeah.
I love that. It's great to hear. Great to hear. Yeah, I mean, those sunglasses have been a big hit. Actually, there's a big department store in Germany, and they say it's the only sunglass, and they carry every sunglass under the made, and they say it's one of the only ones they don't have to discount. They keep reordering, so it's a good hit. Yeah,
I believe it. They're cool. They're
They
very
look so cool.
French. They look very cool. I like them. Well, thanks for doing this. Especially thanks for doing this on a Friday.
Especially when you want to go ride.
Sorry, yeah, and I'm sorry for the mix-up yesterday. And
no, today we got time. I mean, it's still light until 9 p.m., so I've got time. But thank you. I enjoyed the talk, and hopefully you guys can come back and we'll spend some time and see the area.
Thank you.